License and registration.
Where are you headed right now? I'm still in the car. He's right next to me.
I don't know how long this is going to take, but I'll call you back as soon as I can. Dispatch, this is Unit 7. We have the subject contained, requesting backup immediately.
7, belay that. Control, send the supervisor to my location now.
You think you can just ignore the law?
I know my rights. This isn't right.
What is the reason for this stop?
You'll find out soon enough. Just keep your eyes forward and stay quiet.
Send an additional unit to my location at Main and 4th.
Code 3.
We have the suspect contained.
License, registration, and proof of insurance.
Yes, officer. They are in the glove compartment.
Marcus Hill noticed the lights before he heard them, red and blue flickering across the windshield like a warning he'd learned to read too well. He slowed, signaled, pulled to the shoulder. Routine. Calm. He told himself that. His hands were already on the wheel when the officer approached, flashlight slicing the dark, the night pressing close, heavy with the smell of wet asphalt. Somewhere nearby, a radio murmured. The officer's eyes lingered, not curious, not friendly, measuring. License and registration. Marcus answered carefully, voice steady, polite, practiced. He felt his heartbeat in his throat anyway. He always did. A second cruiser rolled up behind the first. Then a third. Too many for a tag stop. The radio crackled again. Dispatch to Unit 12. Registered owner is Marcus Hill. Black male. The word landed like a switch flipping. Everything changed. The officer's posture, the angle of his shoulders, the way one hand drifted closer to his belt. Even the silence felt sharper, edged with intent. Marcus swallowed. Why did your voice change? The officer didn't answer. He just gestured toward the car, faced the vehicle. Marcus hesitated for half a second, long enough to understand something irreversible had started, long enough to feel the familiar, sinking knowledge that truth wouldn't matter the way it should. Metal clicked somewhere behind him. Dispatch, the officer said, calm and final. Start a record. Marcus pressed his palms to the cold hood as the radio hissed again, and in that sound, he heard his life sliding out of his hands. Marcus Hill checked the clock on the dashboard as the red and blue lights bloomed behind him. 10:47. Late, but not reckless. He eased the Honda to the shoulder, hands already visible on the wheel. License and registration. The officer said, voice clipped. They're in the glove box. Marcus replied. May I? Slow. The officer interrupted. Another cruiser rolled up. Another voice crackled. What's the stop? Expired tag, the first officer said. Marcus swallowed. The tag was current. He'd renewed it online last week. You mind stepping out? The second officer asked. Am I being detained? Step out. Marcus complied, shoes crunching gravel. The night smelled like wet asphalt and pine. A third voice came over the radio, distant, bureaucratic. Dispatch, confirm registered owner. The first officer leaned closer. Where you headed this late? Home. From the hospital. I'm a respiratory therapist. Uh-huh. A pause. Any weapons? No, sir. Search the vehicle, the first officer said. On what grounds? Marcus asked. The officer smiled thinly. Suspicion. Marcus felt heat in his ears. I don't consent. The radio chirped again. The dispatcher's tone shifted, sharpened. Unit 12, registered owner is Marcus Hill. Black male, prior address Eastview Apartments. The officers stiffened. One hand hovered near a holster. Marcus said, quietly, why did your voice change? Face the car, the first officer said. I asked a question. Face the car. A passing truck roared. Someone laughed inside it. Marcus spread his palms on cold metal. This is a mistake, he said. The second officer muttered. They always say that. The radio hissed. Proceed with caution. Marcus closed his eyes. He thought of his mother's text, unread. He thought of lungs filling, alarm sounding, Liv's balance on timing. "Do you know why I pulled you over?" the first officer asked. "Yes," Marcus said, "because you could." Silence stretched. The officer's hand settled on his cuff. "Dispatch," the first officer said. "Start a record." Marcus's breath went shallow. "I want a supervisor." "Noted," the officer said. "Turn around." "I haven't done anything." "Hand behind your back." Metal clicked. Pain flared. A phone camera beeped somewhere. "Badge numbers," Marcus said. "Later." The dispatcher returned. Colder now. "Advise backup. Subject non-compliant." "I am compliant," Marcus said, voice shaking. "Please record that." Unit 12. Proceed. A neighbor leaned from a porch. "Is everything okay?" "Go inside," an officer snapped. "This is harassment," Marcus said. "Stop resisting." "I'm not." The cuffs tightened. Sirens wailed closer. Marcus stared at the asphalt, counting breaths, counting seconds. He wondered who would tell his shift he'd be late, who would sit with patients when alarms rang. He wondered how a routine drive had become a file number, a tone change, a warning code. "Transport him," the first officer said. The cruiser door opened like a mouth. Marcus whispered, "Please." No one answered. The radio crackled again, sealing the night, and Marcus felt the story writing itself without him, every syllable stamped official before dawn, before truth could catch up to it all. The booking room smelled like disinfectant and old coffee. Marcus sat on a plastic bench with his wrists cuffed in front of him, the metal biting every time he shifted. A clock ticked too loud on the wall. An officer with tired eyes flipped through a clipboard. "Name?" "Marcus Hill." "Date of birth?" He answered. The officer didn't look up. "Address?" Marcus gave it. The officer paused, then wrote slower. "Employment?" "Respiratory therapist. County general." "Uh-huh." The pen scratched. "You know why you're here?" "No," Marcus said, "because I asked questions." The officer finally looked up. "Because you were non-compliant during a lawful stop." "I complied with everything you asked." Your tone escalated. The officer said, "Flat. You refused a search." "That's not illegal." The officer shrugged. "We'll see." A door buzzed. A young woman in a wrinkled blazer stepped in, a folder tucked under her arm. "Public defender," she said. "I'm Leah Ortiz." Marcus stood. "They cuffed me for nothing." She lowered her voice. "Sit. We'll talk." They took seats at a metal table. Leah flipped the folder open. "No charges filed yet. They are holding you for investigation." "Investigation of what?" She hesitated. "Obstruction. Disorderly conduct." Marcus laughed once. Sharp. For asking why dispatch changed its tone. Leah's eyes flicked to the camera in the corner. "You heard that." "Everyone heard that." She nodded. "I need you to understand how this usually goes." "Please," Marcus said. "Explain how reality works now." She met his gaze. "The report will say you were agitated, that you refused commands, that officers feared for safety." "I did none of that." "I believe you," Leah said quickly, "but belief isn't evidence." "Body cam." She exhaled. "We'll request it." "When?" "Soon." "That's not an answer." "It's the only one I have." A guard leaned in. 5 minutes. Leah closed the folder. "If they release you tonight, don't talk to anyone. Not press. Not social media. So stay quiet. So stay safe." Marcus watched her leave. The door buzzed again. Silence rushed in. Across the room, a man with a swollen lip sat on another bench. "What did they get you for?" he asked. "Driving," Marcus said. The man snorted. "That'll do it." Another detainee chimed in. "They say standard procedure like it's holy." A female officer walked by, eyes front. The man muttered, "Standard." An older officer approached Marcus with tablet. "Sign here." "What am I signing?" "Receipt of property." Marcus scanned the list. "Wallet, Phone. Keys. My phone recorded the stop. The officer's mouth twitched. Battery died. That's not true. Sign. Marcus didn't. I want a supervisor. The officer leaned in. You want to go home tonight? Yes. Then sign. Marcus signed. The officer left without a word. Minutes stretched. Then hours. Marcus listened to doors buzz, to footsteps, to the radio's low murmur. Every voice sounded practiced. Every pause felt intentional. A sergeant finally appeared. Crisp uniform. Silver hair. Mr. Hill. Yes. Let's clear something up, the sergeant said. Our officers conducted a lawful stop. You became argumentative. I asked why dispatch. Dispatch follows protocol. Why did the tone change? The sergeant smiled thinly. You're reading into things. So I imagined it. I'm saying perception can escalate situations. Marcus stood. My perception didn't put cuffs on me. The sergeant's eyes hardened. What's your tone? My tone, Marcus said quietly, was calm until your system decided I was a threat. The sergeant glanced at the camera. We're releasing you pending review. Am I charged? Not at this time. Will there be a record? There's always a record. Marcus swallowed. Can I get a copy? Submit a request. How long? 30 days. 30 days for what happened in 30 seconds. The sergeant said nothing. A guard returned Marcus's things. His phone was off. He turned it on. Notifications flooded in. Missed calls, messages, worry stacking like bricks. At the exit, Leah reappeared. They're letting you go. Pending review, Marcus said. She nodded. That phrase follows people. Like a shadow. Exactly. Outside, cold air hit his face. Sirens wailed somewhere distant. Marcus stood on the steps. Free but altered, the night unfinished. Leah, he said, if I let this go. It doesn't let you go, she finished. He looked back at the building, at the lit windows, at the records being written without him. Then I won't, Marcus said. Marcus didn't sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, the radio crackle replayed, the word black echoing like a switch being thrown. At 6 a.m., he sat at his kitchen table with cold coffee and opened the police department's online portal. The incident report loaded slowly, as if bracing him. Subject became verbally agitated. Subject refused lawful commands. Officers initiated detainment for safety. Marcus laughed, a dry, broken sound. That's not what happened. His phone buzzed. His sister, Danielle. You home? Yes. Mom's worried. I'm fine. He typed, then deleted it. I'm home. At County General, the fluorescent lights felt harsher than usual. Marcus changed into scrubs, nodded at co-workers, answered questions with practiced smile. You okay? Jenna asked, adjusting an oxygen mask. Long night, Marcus said. In the break room, he pulled up the report again. A timestamp caught his eye. Dispatch advisory issue 2249. The same minute the tone changed. He called the records division. I'm requesting bodycam footage from last night. A woman answered, voice pleasant. We'll need a formal request. I'm the subject. Still need the form. How long does it take? 30 to 45 business days. That's unacceptable. She lowered her voice. Sir, I don't make the timeline. Who does? A pause. Is there anything else? Marcus hung up. After his shift, he drove to the precinct. The front desk officer barely looked up. Complaints are filed online. I'm here about falsified statements. The officer sighed. You want internal affairs? Yes. A man in a suit emerged, badge clipped. I'm Captain Reynolds. Marcus shook his hand. Your report says I was aggressive. Reynolds smiled like a customer service rep. That's officer perception. It's inaccurate. Perception isn't accuracy, Reynolds said. It's safety. So safety justifies lying. Reynolds' smile thinned. Strong word. True one. Reynolds folded his hands. Mr. Hill, my advice? Let this go. No charges. No harm. No harm. Marcus felt heat rise. You put me in cuffs. You went home. After you wrote a story about me. Reynolds leaned back. These things don't go the way people hope. Because you make sure they don't. A beat. Reynolds stood. File your complaint. I will. And be careful, Reynolds added lightly. Hospitals like clean records. Marcus stared. Is that a threat? It's a reality. Outside, rain spat to the sidewalk. Marcus called Leah. They are stonewalling, he said. They always do, she replied. Send me the report. He forwarded it. Seconds passed. They escalated language fast. Leah said, non-compliant is their favorite word. They used it after dispatch. That matters. I need the audio. We'll subpoena if needed. That takes time. I know. That evening, Marcus met his mother for dinner. She watched him closely as he pushed food around his plate. They say you were difficult, she said softly. They lied. She reached across the table. I believe you. I'm just tired. I know. She sighed. Your father warned me about nights like this. Marcus looked down. His father had warned him too. At home, he opened his email. A notification from the department sat unread. Complaint received. Status, under review. Another message followed, sent 1 minute later. Please refrain from public statements during the review process. Marcus closed his laptop. His phone buzzed again. An unknown number. Mr. Hill, a woman's voice asked. Yes. This is Claire Bennett. I'm a reporter with the Tribune. Marcus hesitated. How did you get my number? Public records, she said. I'm looking into dispatch protocols. Your stop came up. My stop? There are others. Marcus's heart kicked. What others? Traffic stops where the dispatcher's tone changes after identifying race. Same phrasing. Same timing. Marcus closed his eyes. You have proof. I have patterns, Claire said. I need voices. Silence stretched. They told me not to talk, Marcus said. They always do, Claire replied. That's how patterns survive. Marcus pictured a report, the words chosen like weapons. When? He asked. Tonight, if you can. Marcus looked at the dark window, at his reflection led over the streetlights. Send me what you have, he said. All of it. After the call, he sat very still. He felt exposed, targeted, awake to the machinery grinding behind polite language. His phone buzzed once more. A message from County General HR. We need to discuss an incident involving your name. Marcus exhaled slowly. The report had been written. The tone had been set. And now the consequences were spreading, quiet and procedural, exactly as designed. Marcus parked outside his mother's house just after midnight. The porch light was on, a soft yellow halo cutting through the dark. He sat in the car for a moment, hands on the wheel, listening to the engine tick as it cooled. The door opened before he knocked. You didn't answer your phone, his mother said, pulling him into a hug. Her arms were warm. Steady. He realized how badly he needed that. I'm here, Marcus said. They sat at the kitchen table, the same one where homework and bills had once been spread like battle plans. She poured tea, hands trembling despite herself. They called me, she said. Who? The hospital, just to check in. She made air quotes. That's never good. Marcus stared at the steam curling from his mug. They think I'm trouble now. They think what they are told, she said. And they are told by people who don't know you. That doesn't stop them. She reached across the table. Are you scared? Marcus hesitated. Yes. She nodded. Good. That means you're still paying attention. A knock came at the door. Danielle stepped in, breathless. I drove straight here. She looked Marcus over, then exhaled. You look fine. I feel different. She scoffed. Welcome to the club. They talked in low voices. Marcus told him about the report, the tone change, the word non-compliant. His mother winced each time it came up. That word, she said. They used it on your father. Danielle leaned back. Claire Bennett messaged me. Marcus blinked. You know her? She covered the Eastview housing case. She's legit. She wants to talk. She wants the truth, Danielle said, which is dangerous. The front door creaked again. Mr. Lewis from next door peered in. Saw the lights last night, he said. Figured I'd check. Marcus stood. I'm okay. Mr. Lewis shook his head. I've heard that before. He lowered his voice. They came through here in '98. Same language, different uniforms. Did anyone fight it? Marcus asked. Some tried, Mr. Lewis said. Most got tired. After he left, silence settled. I don't want you to be a headline, his mother said. I don't want to be a footnote, Marcus replied. His phone buzzed. A message from HR, meeting scheduled. Tomorrow 9 a.m. Danielle frowned. That fast. They move when it benefits them. Marcus lay awake on the couch later, staring at the ceiling fan. Every creak sounded like a knock. He replayed the stop, the radio, the way power shifted with a single word. His phone lit up again. Claire, I sent documents. Call when ready. Marcus opened the files. Spreadsheets. Complaints. Dates. Times. Dispatch notes with phrases highlighted in yellow. Proceed with caution. Known subject. Elevated risk. None of it attached to crimes. Just names. Addresses. Skin. He scrolled until his chest tightened. Marcus. His mother called softly from the hallway. I'm here. She sat beside him. You don't have to carry this alone. I know. But you will, she said gently, because that's how they count on wearing you down. He swallowed. What if I lose my job? She didn't answer right away. Then we adjust. What if they follow me? Then we document. What if nothing changes? She met his eyes. Then you'll know you didn't help it stay hidden. Morning came too quickly. At the hospital, the HR office smelled like lemon cleaner. Two administrators sat across from him, hands folded. We're aware of an incident, one said. I was detained unlawfully, Marcus replied. We're not here to determine fault. Then why am I here? To remind you of conduct policies. My conduct saved lives last night, Marcus said. Your officers delayed me. The other administrator cleared his throat. This isn't about the police. It's about your comfort, Marcus said, with power. The meeting ended with smiles and warnings. Outside, Claire waited by the curb. You ready? She asked. Marcus looked back at the hospital doors, at the place that trusted him with breath and blood but hesitated to trust his word. Yes, he said, but we do this right. Claire nodded. We do it slow and loud. Marcus took a breath. He felt the cost already, the tightness, the fear, the sense of being watched. But he also felt something else, fragile and dangerous. Resolve. Marcus met Claire Bennett at a small cafe downtown. The streetlights glinted off rain-slick pavement, reflecting in the window like a fractured timeline of a night before. She slid a manila folder across the table. Everything I could find, she said. Complaints, traffic stop logs, timestamps. Dispatch memos flagged the same way your stop was. Marcus opened it carefully. Highlighted sections jumped out, registered owner identified as blackmail. Tone escalated. Backup advised. Dozens of entries. Months of patterns. Is this normal? He asked quietly. For them? Yes, Claire said. Her voice was steady, but her fingers tapped nervously. They rely on coded language to maintain authority without accountability. It's systemic. Marcus leaned back. Systemic? That's what they call it. Claire pointed to a page. Look at this. Eastview Apartments again. Previous stops. Same dispatcher. Same phrasing. Elevated risk. Non-compliant. Each flagged by color in the internal system. Marcus's jaw tightened. So this isn't just me. No. You're one data point among hundreds. But yours shows a glaring escalation, the kind that makes a pattern visible. He rubbed his temples. And yet they pretend nothing's happening. They get away with it because people accept reports at face value, Claire said. Even colleagues, even you at the hospital. Everyone assumes procedure equals fairness. Marcus stayed at the folder. The numbers blurred. The repetition was suffocating. Faces he didn't know, names he wouldn't remember, all funneled into the same formula. Skin, tone, perceived compliance. So what now? Marcus asked. I can't just send this to someone and hope for justice. Claire leaned in. We build a record, step by step, document everything. Witnesses, complaints, audio if possible. Each interaction strengthens your case. He exhaled. And the risk? Hi, she said bluntly. You'll be labeled difficult. They'll follow your movements. You'll feel the pressure socially and professionally. Marcus's eyes darkened. I already feel it. They paused. A waitress refilled their coffee without asking. The aroma was sweet, warm. Marcus drank slowly. What about dispatchers themselves? He asked. Can they be held accountable? Only if their actions are traceable and intentional, Claire replied. And this is where patterns matter. Repetition shows intent. Marcus nodded, though it didn't comfort him. The night of the stop, the cuffs, the officer's hand on the belt, they replayed in his mind. Each detail reinforced the dossier Claire had assembled. Systematic, deliberate, silent. I need witnesses, Marcus said suddenly. Other people stopped the same way. Who will talk? Claire handed him a printed email. Eastview residents. They are willing to share their experiences. Some anonymously, some not. You'll need both. Marcus skimmed. Notes from a construction worker, a grocery clerk, a college student, all recounting a dispatcher's voice shifting after seeing their names. Fearful, silent compliance, some subtle resistance. He leaned back, heart hammering. It's worse than I thought. It's usually worse than you think, Claire said. But now we can expose it. You'll need to be meticulous, careful, but persistent. Marcus closed the folder. The rain outside intensified. Streetlights blurred like tears. He pictured the dispatcher, calm in a room full of monitors, flipping switches. Nothing illegal on paper, yet harm everywhere. This is bigger than me, he said. Yes, Claire said. And that's why you can make a difference. Marcus took a deep breath. I'm ready to start, even if it costs me everything. She studied him, impressed. Then we begin. But step one is careful documentation. Every phone call, every interaction, every message. Marcus nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility settle in his chest. It wasn't just about proving what happened to him anymore. It was about shining light on a system built to obscure it. Later that night, Marcus scrolled through his messages. Each was a reminder. Friends asking if he was okay. Family checking in. Claire sending timelines. And in each one, a shadow of the stop lingered. The injustice had a shape, and now he had a way to trace it. But the cost was already clear. Eyes on him, judgment in every word. Fear coiled in the stomach like a living thing. He whispered to himself, barely audible, I won't be quiet. Outside, the street glistened. Rain fell steadily. Marcus felt both small and monumental, the first pulse of resistance beginning inside him. The system thought it had moved on. It hadn't counted on him fighting back. Marcus didn't wait for the system to act on its own. Within days, he filed a formal complaint with Internal Affairs, detailing the stop, the dispatcher's tone, and the officer's coded language. He included body cam requests, witness statements, and timestamps. A copy went to Claire, who promised to hold everything meticulously. At work, subtle tension surfaced immediately. Nurse supervisors whispered in hallways. Patients' families noticed him waiting longer in the triage room. He caught a co-worker's wary glance as if his presence might invite trouble. Marcus, his colleague Jenna said softly during a break. Are you sure about this? You know how fast rumors spread. I know, Marcus replied. But someone has to speak. If it happens to me, it's happening to others. Genocide. Just be careful. HR is watching, and the police, well, you know. I know, he said again, a little louder. The repetition steadied him. At the precinct, the complaint was received with a polite veneer. A captain with a lined face and thin hair smiled too brightly. Mr. Hill, Your complaint is logged. We'll investigate thoroughly. Marcus wanted to ask who investigates the investigators, but he only nodded. That night, his car was followed by an unmarked SUV. At first, he thought it was coincidence. Then every turn mirrored his route. At a stoplight, a shadowy figure in the passenger seat wrote in a notebook. Marcus's pulse accelerated. He considered calling the police, but he'd learned better than that. At the hospital, HR requested a formal discussion. Marcus entered a windowless office where two administrators sat across from him, hands folded, faces expressionless. "We're aware of your complaint," the first said. "We want to ensure your conduct here remained professional." "I've done nothing unprofessional," Marcus replied. "Understand," the second administrator added. "We must maintain neutral operations." "You're warning me," Marcus said. "We are reminding you," they said in unison. "About what?" "Speaking out." They didn't answer. Back home, Marcus's phone rang late at night. A blocked number. "Marcus Hill," a voice asked, low and clinical. "We're just checking in. For your safety." "Who is this?" he asked. "No one you need to know. Just remain compliant." He hung up, stomach twisting. The next morning, a colleague mentioned quietly, "I heard the precinct called your name at roll call." Marcus's heart sank. For what? They didn't say. The warning was clear. Standing in the hallway, he noticed nurses avoiding eye contact, whispers bouncing like ricochets. Even minor interactions felt amplified, every glance carrying the weight of surveillance. He returned home, heart hammering, to find Danielle waiting. "You look exhausted." "You're being watched," she said bluntly. "Every move, every word. HR, precinct, maybe more." "I know." She hesitated. "And your parents?" "They worry," Marcus said, "but they can't protect me." Claire called at noon. "Have you documented everything?" "I have." "Good, because they're already pushing back. Unmarked cars, HR meetings, whispers. The pattern is active." "I can't stay quiet," Marcus said. "You won't, but you have to be precise. Any slip gives them leverage." Marcus exhaled. "I feel like I'm standing in a storm, and it hasn't even hit yet." Claire's voice softened. "That's because it's not done. But storms can be traced. And when you follow the storm, you see the source." At work, Marcus noticed subtle hostility. Charts missing, emails delayed, a shift reassigned without explanation. Every small inconvenience compounded the weight on his chest. Yet he documented each detail. Names, dates, times, responses, everything. One evening, while leaving the hospital, he felt the same SUV idling across the street. He recognized the vehicle from before. He approached cautiously, phone in hand. The car drove off before he could capture plate number. Back inside, Claire's email pinged. Patterns continue. Keep records. Avoid direct confrontation when possible. Marcus leaned back in his chair. The psychological toll was intense. Sleep was shallow, meals skipped, hands jittery. The fear of retaliation, the constant awareness, gnawed at him. But each note, each observation, each documented violation gave him a thread of control. His mother called. "Don't let them make you small," she said. "They are trying," he admitted. "I know, but you're not alone." He looked at his reflection in the window. Tired eyes, tight jaw, clenched fists. Fear mixed with resolve. He understood the stakes. Loss of reputation, pressure at work, emotional exhaustion. Yet, the injustice demanded response. That night, Marcus drafted an outline of events, integrating all the incidents from the past 2 weeks. The cuffs, the stop, the dispatcher, the HR warnings, the surveillance. Each entry became a weapon in the form of documentation, each timestamp a shield against erasure. By dawn, exhaustion and adrenaline wove into a single pulse of determination. Marcus realized the fight wasn't just for him. It was for every name flagged in yellow, every report mastered as routine, every life quietly dictated by a system that shifted tone the instant a name revealed skin. And though the pressure mounted, the isolation deepened, Marcus made a vow. He would follow the storm to its source, because if he didn't, no one else would. By the following week, Claire had collected everything Marcus had documented. His own stop, dozens of prior incidents flagged by the same dispatcher, screenshots, timestamps, and witness statements. Together, they had constructed a timeline that no one could easily dismiss. "You're about to go public," Claire said, leaning over the kitchen table, coffee cooling between them. "Are you ready?" Marcus ran a hand through his hair. "I've been ready for weeks. I didn't expect it to feel this heavy." "It's heavy because it's real," Claire said. "This isn't a story someone dreamed up. Every word you wrote, every detail, it's proof of a system failing real people. And you lived it." He nodded, the weight settling in his chest. "Do you have the audio?" "I've got partial body cam clips and dispatch audio. Dispatch changes tone the instant they see your name. It's chilling. People are going to hear it and finally understand." Marcus swallowed. "Then let's do it." They arranged a small press conference in front of City Hall, careful to follow protocol and document each step. Claire reached out to reporters, local civil rights organizations, and community leaders. By late afternoon, a crowd gathered, cameras, microphones, the faint buzz of murmured speculation. Marcus stepped up to the podium, feeling the polish wood under his hands. His chest tightened, not from fear alone, but from the responsibility each pair of eyes represented. "Last week," he began, voice steady despite the tremor beneath, "I was pulled over by police officers during a routine drive home. My license and registration were in order, my behavior compliant. But the moment dispatch identified my race, the officer's tone and behavior changed. I was handcuffed, detained, and treated as a threat for no lawful reason." He paused. The cameras clicked. Claire passed him a note confirming timestamps. He continued, "This is not an isolated incident. Multiple stops, records, and complaints show a pattern that uses coded language to justify actions against black citizens, people like me, without consequence." A reporter asked, "Marcus, have you faced retaliation?" "Yes," he said, swallowing. "Unmarked vehicles have followed me. HR warnings at work. Whispered threats. But I'm here today because staying silent only protects the system." Another reporter asked, "What do you want to happen next?" "Accountability," Marcus said firmly. "The dispatcher must face consequences, officers must be retrained, and the system must change. Every citizen deserves to be treated fairly, without their race determining their treatment." The crowd murmured. Claire handed him a USB. "This contains all the audio clips, timestamps, and witness statements." Marcus looked down at the device. He felt the magnitude of what they were releasing. Dispatchers, officers, bureaucrats, all would be exposed. The system's veneer of neutrality was about to crack. Within hours, news coverage spread across social media and local news. Clips of the dispatcher's tone shift went viral. People reacted with shock, anger, and disbelief. Local officials scrambled to respond, holding impromptu press conferences. Mayor's office statement: "We take these allegations seriously and will conduct an internal review. Citizens' safety and trust remain our priority." Police spokesperson: "All procedures were lawful. Internal protocols are being reviewed." Marcus watched as a headline scrolled across his phone. "Black motorist details pattern police bias. Dispatch audio exposes systemic racism in traffic stops." He felt a mix of relief and exhaustion. The world had seen and heard him. The evidence was no longer abstract. It was public, undeniable. But exposure came with costs. Social media comments ranged from supportive to venomous. Anonymous threats appeared. At work, co-workers whispered louder, and HR monitored him closely. Yet Marcus refused to retreat. Claire sat beside him that evening. "You're under scrutiny, Marcus. But now you're also a symbol. The public is watching. Officials will be pressured." He exhaled, thinking of the dispatcher, calm in a room full of monitors, blind to the faces behind the names he flagged. "I hope they feel the consequences," Marcus said quietly. "They will," Claire said. "But the law takes time. Policies need rewriting. Oversight boards need pressure. The storm isn't over yet." He nodded. "I know, but we've pierced the silence." Late that night, a news anchor replayed audio clips on live TV. the dispatcher's tone shifting the moment Marcus's race was identified. The words were not cruel, but the cadence, the change, it spoke volumes. Viewers commented online, shared, and debated. The city could no longer ignore the system's subtle, systematic failures. The dispatcher, confronted with a leak, was placed on administrative leave. Internal memos surfaced showing previous complaints had been minimized or ignored. The officers involved were ordered to retrain and provide statements to oversight committees. Marcus, exhausted, sat on his couch, phone buzzing continuously with messages of support. He thought about his mother's worried eyes, Danielle's unwavering presence, Claire's insistence on documentation. The fight was far from over, but this was a victory. A final text from Claire. Tonight, you changed the record. Tomorrow, we push for change. Marcus stared at the phone, the weight of his ordeal pressing down, but beneath it, a flicker of something stronger, resilience. The storm had arrived, and for the first time, Marcus knew he was steering the course. The public oversight hearing was held in a polished conference room downtown, the walls lined with somber wood and bright fluorescent lights. Marcus sat near the front, hands folded, phone and notes ready. His pulse thumped like a warning drum. Every seat was filled, journalists, community leaders, lawyers, and curious citizens. The tension was palpable. The panel of officials entered, folders in hand, expressions carefully neutral. At the center sat a senior city council member with graying hair and a practiced calm. Mr. Hill, she began, voice measured. You have submitted evidence alleging misconduct by the police department and dispatcher. We will hear your account and review the materials. Marcus nodded, throat tight. Thank you. He began recounting the stop, speaking slowly, deliberately. On the night of January 12th, I was pulled over during a routine drive. License, registration, and behavior were all compliant. The moment dispatch identified my race, the officer's tone and approach changed. I was handcuffed and detained. He played the audio clip. The dispatcher's tone shifted mid-sentence, calm, neutral, then clipped and cautious. A subtle but unmistakable change. Murmurs rippled through the room. Was there any reason for escalation? Asked a panel member. No, Marcus said. At no point did I threaten, resist, or act in a way that justified that behavior. A captain from the police department took the stand next. Our officers followed protocol, he said. Subject compliance and safety are priorities. Any perception of change is coincidental. Marcus held his gaze. Coincidental? The audio, the repeated pattern, previous complaints, they are documented. It's not coincidence when the same dispatcher flags black individuals differently, consistently over months. The panel reviewed spreadsheets, charts, and highlighted dispatch notes. Marcus's voice remained calm, each word carrying weight. Systemic bias hides behind coded language. Words like non-compliant, elevated risk, and known subject have become tools to justify differential treatment. One panelist asked, Are you alleging intentional harm? Yes, Marcus replied firmly. Intent is shown through repetition and pattern. The dispatcher knew the effect of the words, and the officers followed. It is a coordinated, systemic issue, not isolated perception. Community members shared testimony. An Eastview resident recalled a near-identical stop at the same intersection. A college student described the dispatcher's voice shift when her name appeared in the system. Each account reinforced Marcus's case. The senior council member cleared her throat. Officers involved, please respond. An officer spoke cautiously. We followed standard operating procedures. Any perception of differential treatment is unfortunate. Marcus's jaw tightened. Unfortunate? That's not enough when policies harm lives. We are talking about patterns, systemic enforcement against citizens based solely on race. How many more have endured this without recording it? The room fell silent. A reporter whispered, "He's making history." Marcus handed a printout to the council clerk. These are all prior complaints, flagged and ignored. They show a consistent lack of accountability. An internal affairs investigator stammered. We follow the procedures as outlined. Marcus leaned forward. Procedures without accountability are meaningless. They protect the system, not the public. One council member turned to the dispatcher, now in the room but silent. Explain your decisions during the stops highlighted by Mr. Hill. The dispatcher shifted uncomfortably. I was following department protocol. Any tone change were procedural, not intentional. Marcus felt a cold clarity. Protocol without oversight allows bias to persist. You were entrusted with impartiality and failed. The panel deliberated in private, and the hearing reconvened an hour later. Based on the evidence presented, the council member announced, the dispatcher will be suspended pending review. Internal protocol for traffic stops and dispatch communications will be revised. Officers involved will undergo mandatory retraining on bias recognition and procedural compliance. Additionally, a public statement acknowledging the pattern of misconduct will be issued. A murmur ran through the room. Relief and validation mixed with lingering tension. Marcus exhaled slowly, the weight of weeks' worth of fear and frustration lifting just slightly. Yet he knew this was not total victory. Policies could be rewritten, but hearts and habits took longer. Justice, imperfect as it was, had arrived. After the hearing, Claire approached. "You did it," she said softly. Marcus shook his head. "We did it, but the system still moves. The real work begins now." Outside, reporters pressed questions. Marcus answered with careful precision. The pattern of systemic bias cannot be erased by one hearing. We have exposed it, and now the community and the public will hold them accountable. Change takes vigilance. A neighbor from Eastview waved at him, tearful. "Thank you," she said. "Finally, someone saw us." Marcus felt the emotional cost of everything. The fear, the surveillance, the whispers at work, the sleepless nights. But he also felt the quiet power truth validated in public, no longer a shadow of disbelief. He walked home slowly, lights of the city reflecting in wet streets. Each step carried weight, exhaustion, and resolve. The dispatcher would face consequences, the officers would be retrained, and systemic flaws exposed. But Marcus knew that exposing injustice came with scars. He paused at a corner near Eastview Apartments, staring at the same street where it all began. The memory of the handcuffs, the tone, the radio crackle, it still hurt. But he also felt a pulse of hard-won control. A small child ran past, laughing. Marcus watched, thinking about the future, people who might now breathe a little easier because someone refused to stay silent. He texted Claire, hearing done. Partial victory. Eyes on next steps. Her reply came almost immediately. Good work. The record is now public. Keep documenting. Resistance continues. Marcus put his phone away and exhaled, letting the night settle. Justice had a face tonight, and though the cost remained etched in his bones, it was real, tangible, undeniable. He whispered to himself, softly, almost like a prayer, "We are seen, we are heard, and we will not be erased." The morning after the hearing, the city felt different to Marcus. The streets were the same, the sun rose the same, yet a weight had shifted. A ledger of accountability had been opened. Notifications flooded his phone, news outlets, civil rights organizations, friends, and strangers offering support. The dispatcher had been placed on extended administrative leave. Officers were in retraining programs, and internal memos indicated policy revisions. Marcus sat at his mother's kitchen table, coffee steaming in front of him. She reached across and squeezed his hand. "You did the right thing," she said, voice thick with relief. "I didn't do it alone," Marcus said. "Claire, witnesses, the journalists, everyone who spoke up. But it feels heavy." "Of course," his mother replied. "Justice isn't light." At work, things were quieter. The whispers hadn't disappeared entirely, but colleagues who had avoided him now offered cautious acknowledgement. Jenna approached him. "I just want you to know, I see what you did, and I respect it." Marcus nodded. "Thank you." He returned home to find Danielle waiting. "You're being careful, right?" she asked. "Every step," Marcus said. "But I can't stop now. Patterns don't end with one hearing." Claire called later that afternoon. "The story is trending nationwide. Dispatch protocols are being reviewed in multiple departments. Officials are under scrutiny." "Good," Marcus said. "But it won't stop there." "No, it won't," Claire agreed. "Change is incremental. You've opened the record, but vigilance is the only guarantee it stays open. Marcus looked out his window at the city, traffic moving in streams of red and white. He thought of every person who had been pulled over, flagged, and silenced. Every timestamp, every highlighted note, every yellow marker in Claire's folders represented a story waiting to be told. I keep thinking about my life, he said quietly. The fear, the hours wasted wondering who's watching, if I'll be targeted again, the emotional toll. It's real, Claire said. You're carrying trauma, but also power. That balance isn't easy. Later, Marcus attended a small community meeting at Eastview Apartments. Residents spoke freely now, recounting experiences, asking questions, and sharing their own documented encounters. The room buzzed with cautious hope. Marcus listened, realizing the weight of visibility. Their stories reinforced his own, their courage reinforcing his. A neighbor handed him a note. Thank you for refusing to be erased. Marcus felt the words press into his chest. They were heavy but grounding. At night, he reviewed the internal policy drafts. The dispatcher would face termination if complaints escalated, oversight boards would monitor future calls, and officers had to attend racial bias recognition seminars. The system had shifted, if slightly, toward accountability. Yet Marcus understood the cost. He felt lingering tension at work, occasional side glances, and the faint pulse of fear whenever a siren passed close. Exposure brought consequences, personal and professional, but it also brought proof that patterns can be disrupted when someone refuses to stay silent. One evening, sitting on his porch, he reflected on the journey. From the initial traffic stop to the public hearing, the documents, the audio clips, the journalists, and the community witnesses, it had been an exhausting battle, yet meaningful. The storm had broken, and now the winds of accountability began to reshape the landscape. Marcus texted his mother, "It's not over, but it's different now." She replied instantly, "I know, and you've done something remarkable." He looked at the city lights, aware of the emotional scars and the lingering fear, yet also sensing the quiet resilience that had grown within him. Claire called one last time that evening. "You've shifted the narrative. Others will follow. Policies will change. But remember, you deserve time to breathe. Reflection isn't weakness." Marcus exhaled. "I've earned it, haven't I?" "Yes," she said, "and now you can use it to guide others." Marcus closed his eyes and imagined the dispatcher, the officers, the bureaucrats, all accountable in some measure for the harm they had caused. The system had shown cracks, illuminated by persistence and truth. It wouldn't fix everything. Some pain would remain, but he had reclaimed the record, and with it, a measure of agency. He whispered to himself, softly, resolutely, "Justice isn't perfect, but it is ours to demand." Outside, the city breathed, indifferent yet watching. Inside, Marcus felt the weight of trauma and the spark of resilience coexist. His life bore the cost of confrontation, but also the fruit of exposure. The fight for accountability had left marks, but it had also left hope. As night deepened, Marcus Hill sat quietly, listening to the distant hum of the city. He was no longer just a statistic in a police report, no longer an entry in a system designed to erase him. He was seen, heard, and remembered, and that, he knew, was a victory worth every ounce of struggle.